Disclaimer, the comments made in this video are intended for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to offend anyone. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are watching the masters of self-destruction at work. Sit back and enjoy the show, because nothing beats watching people trip over the very morals they tried to preach. Kicking things off, we have a woke TikToker proudly flashing a rainbow beard like it is some groundbreaking act of bravery, while reality politely disagrees.
Guess what time it is? Dun da da da. New beard time. So, it's Pride Month, and I did it. I did the full rainbow this time, and eyebrows and all. It took quite a bit of effort, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I kind of like my half and half better, but at the same time, it's something different, so I'll go for it. So what do y'all think? This is gonna be a short one. I know I'm covered in fur. I gotta get ready for work and all that stuff, so just let me know what you think. Love you all. Talk to you later. Bye.
They hype up their big reveal, expecting applause, but all they really show is how desperate the look at me trend has become. Meanwhile, the response cuts straight through the noise and leaves the whole performance looking more like a cry for attention than a statement. Next is a full-time DEI contractor recording a meltdown after her taxpayer-funded gig gets shut off, and suddenly the world feels unfair again.
Okay, so today I was supposed to be leading a training about environmental justice for a national agency, but it was canceled an hour before it started. Why? Well, because the new federal guidelines from the Trump administration ban not only DEI trainings, but also any trainings or programs about environmental justice. And they're not stopping there. These policies go further, rolling back protections for our water, land, opening the floodgates to drilling, silencing those that are fighting for justice in any form. And to make matters worse, they're demanding a list of contractors like me who provide DEI and environmental justice trainings. And to be honest, it's terrifying.
She acts shocked that the gravy train stopped an hour before her big training, clutching her chest like democracy just collapsed. Then, this reaction is pure satisfaction as her panic grows. One policy change and her entire activist empire crumbles like it never had a purpose to begin with. Now for a classic meltdown, a woke black guest confidently announces she is Caucasian.
I'm a Caucasian because everything about me is different from an African American. I have naturally straight hair. My nose is not giant. My lips are perfect. I'm different from African Americans because I'm white. My figure is just like Kim Kardashian, and she's a wonderful.
Every sentence she drops gets more unhinged, and the poor guy reacting looks like he is fighting for his life. One cough, one jaw drop, 1,000-yard stare at a time. He dismantles her fantasy without saying a word. The delusion collapses faster than his patience. Here comes another masterpiece of self-importance, starring a non-binary guy who thinks his afternoon tennis match was a historic struggle.
So I just got done playing tennis in my small little Tennessee conservative town. It was a mixed doubles group, and you can see I'm dressed pretty, I don't know, mask, androgynous, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not exactly going around announcing to people in this group that I'm non-binary, so most of them probably don't know. But while I was there was a man there that made a transphobic joke. And it was offensive, and it was loud. He yelled it across the court. And my first instinct was shame, like, oh gosh, I really, and then it was fear, and then it was like, no, screw it, I gotta say something. And so I turned to him and I said, hey, I'm non-binary, I'd lay off the transphobic jokes. And he said, whoa, what's non-binary? What does it even mean? And I said, the fact that you don't know what it means is even more reason that you lay off joking about trans people. And I'm glad I said something. I'm glad I had the courage to say something, because too many times in my life I have let jokes and offensive things like that slide, and I want to start doing better.
He starts off strutting around a parking lot, smiling like he just won Wimbledon. Then he gets dead serious because someone made a joke across the court. One joke, and suddenly he is on camera narrating his shame, his fear, and his dramatic decision to speak up like he is the hero of a movie no one asked for. This one is hilarious, as Modern Woke Meltdown meets someone who has finally had enough of the circus.
Understand what is so hard about correcting other people.
I'm so sorry I fought for gay rights. I'm so sorry for all the pain and suffering I went through, and Had I known y'all were going to take it this far, I wish I could go back in time and not fight for gay rights and just live a nice, quiet, silent life on my own. We thought that's what we were fighting for, was just nice, quiet, fitting in, being just like everyone else. But I didn't know y'all were going to take it this far. I mean, wish I would have never done it.
First, we get the crying car cam lecture about pronouns, acting like the whole world should rearrange itself for their feelings. Then an older activist shows up exhausted and fed up, admitting the movement she once supported has turned into something she barely recognizes. One honest moment from her makes the dramatic outrage before it look even more absurd. Now, an entire crew of woke officials throws a victory party for removing a traffic sign like they just solved world hunger.
LA City Council members Hugo Soto Martinez and Nithya Raman were on hand today to help remove the signs. They say the no cruising and no U-turn signs were put up in the 1990s to prevent people in the gay community from meeting up with other gay people.
I was also surprised that these U-turn signs were still up. And at first, they seem a little, oh, okay, it's just a no U-turn sign. But when you learn the history of it and you realize that these were used to profile gay people, it's so important that we have these removed.
The LA City Council members say the signs were put up after the gay community began to grow and because there was a gay bar.
They hoist that metal no U-turn sign like it is some historic trophy, giving speeches about oppression while commuters are probably stuck in 10 minutes of extra traffic because of them. Nothing exposes the clown show faster than watching grown adults celebrate fixing a problem no one had. Here we have a woke legal expert straight from the front seat of her car, confidently explaining immigration law she clearly Googled 5 minutes earlier.
Documented immigrants are not criminals.
How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals.
There is a difference between criminal and civil law, and when you are here without documentation, you are committing a civil violation, not a crime. The term illegal immigrant is inaccurate legally and factually because a person cannot be illegal.
I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
They all have a criminal record?
If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal, yes.
And yes, entering the country illegally is a crime.
She starts by declaring illegal entry is not criminal, only to trip over her own argument and admit the opposite on camera. Then a response lands instantly, using her words against her so perfectly that the silence edit at the end feels like the only accurate summary of her logic. Next, here are 3 different flavors of nonsense that strike out on every pitch.
We need to let children be whatever they want to be. What if they want to be conservative? Not that.
And I would think Jesus also, I always kind of interpreted, he was a right? He never experienced fire to anybody else, so Jesus was probably queer himself.
He was tinted in that way.
Okay, anyway, but Jesus, still then, do you think he would be proud of who you are?
And yes, I do hear God speak to me. Yeah, God's inside me. He's living inside me.
Like hearing stuff that is like a genuine, like mental illness.
The Bible says that his people...
First, a meltdown over misgendering, then a parenting skit where tolerance magically ends the moment a kid leans conservative, and finally a Pride attendee rewriting the Bible like it is fan fiction. Each time an UnWoke voice steps in, the whole performance collapses, leaving them scrambling while the audience wonders how they thought any of that made sense. Now for a real masterpiece of woke brilliance, here's someone proudly brainstorming how to waste ICE's time and sabotage companies just because they ended DEI trainings.
This woke white woman wants to make false police reports to waste ICE's time. I assure you, lady, I think you should do it. I think it's a great idea because effing around and finding out is hilarious to me.
I have a question. Is it a crime for me to report myself to ICE or just waste their time? Or is it a crime to apply for Target and all these other companies that got rid of DEI and just waste their time, like schedule interviews, don't show up, schedule another interview, don't show up? Just thinking about being a
She acts like plotting fake reports, and no show interviews make her some rebellious hero, when really she is just advertising how little she understands consequences. The response simply lets her keep talking, because every sentence digs her deeper and turns her big gotcha plan into pure self-owned comedy. Here's a good one, as a woman tries running through a checklist of gotcha dating questions, and the guy shuts every single one down without even blinking.
What would you do if I wanted to start an OnlyFans?
You're serious?
Yeah.
You'd be single.
What would you do if I couldn't cook?
You'd be single.
Can you cook?
That's irrelevant.
No. Can you cook though?
I mean, can you fight? Let's ask pointless questions.
How is it a pointless question? I'm trying to get to know you.
Because that's your job.
What's my job?
To make sandwiches.
Did he actually just say, my job is to make sandwiches?
How am I going to fight off the intruders if you don't make sandwiches? I need sustenance.
You're a dick.
You think she's setting traps? He answers, you'd be single, faster than she can read the card. The moment she tries flipping the script on him, he fires back with a perfect counter that leaves her staring at the table, completely out of line. The woke logic collapses and he walks right through it. And here we have a woke panel trying to play smart while Ollie London calmly hands them a reality check they never saw coming.
Is it not right to say that you're detransitioning from being transracial to transgender? Did you ever come out as transgender?
I was transgender.
How long were you transgender for?
For a year. I struggled with my identity my whole life, and you know, my issue is the trans activists that have hijacked the LGBT community and are causing real harm to the LGBT community by pushing gender ideology on children, by forcing women out of women's spaces. That is my issue. I don't have an issue with trans people. I have many trans friends. My issue is with the radical gender ideology.
So do you think there is case for the argument then that this show is premised around this evening, that there is a bit of strain in the community?
There's definitely strain. I mean, look, there are people that say that sexuality and gender identity should not be conflated, and I think the real issue is the more extreme elements of the trans activists that are pushing this agenda, that are pushing for all these things on children, pushing for hormones on kids and puberty blockers. That's the real issue.
They toss out the usual buzzwords, hoping no one notices the contradictions, and he cuts straight through them. The moment he calls out the activists pushing chaos into kids' lives and women's spaces, the whole woke script starts falling apart. One solid answer and their talking points scatter like confetti. Now, here's a woke kid who marches up to the mic thinking he is about to score some moral victory.
Demented, homophobic, and transphobic rhetoric and rants just further prove our point that we have to fight loudly to be respected. The reason that LGBTQIA+ suicide rates are so high in this country, it's because there are people like you who make us feel like we don't belong.
Okay, is there a question in there or a speech?
Yes.
You gotta ask a question, buddy.
How do you think other people who, with your beliefs respond to the fact that your hateful and harmful rhetoric costs the lives of queer children every single day, on average, every 45 seconds?
Okay, so this is just going to be a pure boogeyman. You're pretending that someone committed suicide because of Candace Owens. You've got no facts here. You're just going, it's your rhetoric that's causing all of this. I sat down with a man named Walt Heyer who was convinced to chop his penis off after your community told him that there was something wrong with him because he had confusion. Why was he trans? Because he was molested when he was 4 years old by his uncle. Rather than being sat down and spoken to by a psychologist, he was handed hormone pills, and he eventually chopped off his penis. Suicide rates go up after they transition. And Candace Owens wasn't the one that chopped their dicks off.
He unloads the usual guilt trip lines, hoping she will crumble, but she fires back with facts he never prepared for. The crowd erupts, his confidence vanishes, and his whole script falls apart faster than he can blink. Next, a woke student strolls into a Crowder debate, thinking a turkey hat and a half-baked talking point will somehow hold up against actual facts.
Some cultures better than other cultures?
I would not argue that some cultures are better than other cultures.
Okay, well then we just disagree. I think that the culture that says you can't rape and scalp women is better than the culture that says you can steal women.
I was thinking more on the idea of like cultural values based on.
But those are cultural values.
I wouldn't
That's
really
a big
say
reason
that...
for the conflict, right? When early settlers come in, they go, you don't get to enslave their children and burn these people alive.
Yeah.
The conquistadors came in and they conquered these people and they were brutal and they were barbaric and they wiped them out. Do you know how many conquistadors there were? There were about 500.
Yeah.
Do you know how many natives there were? Many tens of thousands. Do you know how many tons of gold they had?
That I don't know.
Do you know how they procured said gold? By enslaving, because they had no regard for human rights whatsoever.
Mhm.
And so they enslaved people and they would say, okay, you have to go and get us gold. And your options are get us gold or die.
Yeah.
So Cortez came with 500 conquistadors. Do you think he can take over and conquer an entire land with 500 conquistadors? What's required is natives who were so upset because of the barbarism and how mistreated they were, they felt that they were, and they knew they were better treated by European settlers.
She tries to float vague lines about cultural values, and Crowder calmly drops a history lesson so heavy she can barely nod fast enough to keep up. By the end, her whole argument is wobbling, while he wraps it up with logic she has no way around. Here we have a masked woke activist steps up to the mic, ready to lecture Chloe Cole on transphobia, only to crumble the moment she's asked to define anything she is yelling about.
Someone who is trans. I haven't medically transitioned because it was never encouraged by any doctor, especially here in Iowa, because it was already banned. But I will say, as someone, when you had mentioned that you were not transphobic, are you aware that most of the people who have bans and what you are fighting for is transphobic? You are being transphobic against kids like myself and other people before.
Would you care to explain what that means, what transphobia means?
Yeah, it's a lot. There are so many people here who have fought against being trans. For children like myself and other children I have known, I have actually had a friend who did kill himself because he was trans and he could not get the treatment. So it is a very, very big issue.
I'm very sorry to hear about your friend. What we are advocating for is not for the eradication of...
They try to stack emotion on top of buzzwords, hoping it will hide the holes in their argument, but Chloe stays calm and slices right through the script. One steady answer from her and the entire outrage routine collapses into confused rambling and hand-waving. Coming up, we've got a professional protest warrior who talks tough right up until reality checks her attitude.
For too long, these folks have been able to do whatever the heck they want to do, whether it's on college campuses or it's at their little meetups or their direct actions. It's absolutely amazing to see what a wonderful world this can be when they get some actual consequences for their actions. And then, of course, as always, once the bracelets go on, they're crying their eyes out.
Embarrassed to mention it.
Is your wife still over there? Yeah.
Bye-bye. Have a fun trip.
I don't care what you believe in. You're allowed to believe in it, but you're not allowed to break the law. And it's time that we bring these people to justice.
She charges at someone with a flagpole like she is starring in his own revolution. But the second the cuffs come out, all that fire turns into trembling lips and glossy eyes. The other side does not even have to say much, because nothing cancels fake bravado faster than consequences walking over in uniform. This time, it's a panelist trying to lecture Jordan Peterson on equality while barely holding her own sentence together.
People being able to have different choices and having equality of outcome.
Aha, well, so the overwhelming proportion of people who are in prisons are male. Now, do you want to equalize that, just out of curiosity? What about bricklayers? They're 99% male, and we've got about 3/4 of the population now in universities in the humanities and social sciences are female.
Yeah.
Are we going to equalize that? And men work longer hours. They work more dangerous jobs, participate in jobs in the STEM fields that are scalable. They make more money for those reasons. And that's all hidden under the idea that the reason that men and women make different amounts of money is...
She reaches for talking points. He hits her with prisons, bricklayers, STEM, and actual data, and suddenly the confidence drains right out of the room. By the time he finishes, the woke narrative is wobbling so hard the highlight edit afterward feels like a victory lap he earned in 10 seconds. And finally, they said it was about kindness, but control slipped out by accident.
Peterson, I teach students, and I'm asked often to call people singularly they. It started probably about 4 years ago. It struck me as very odd. I'm 52. And some of them, you can tell that it's coming from a very deep place, and that's how they feel, and they deeply need to be called they. Some of them, my horse sense says that they're kind of enjoying giving me a certain shock and that there's a certain theatrical aspect. It's my horse sense that there's a certain épate le bourgeois aspect to it. I kind of feel it, and I'm probably right. But I can't know. I'm a linguist, I'm a person, and my general feeling has been whatever whatever they ask, just go with it, and let's change our usage of the pronouns because we have a lot to do. Now, how would you know which students to discount as opposed to which ones to go along with?
Okay, well, first of all, I wouldn't know, right? Which is partly why your skepticism is justified. But I have to be responsible for what I say based on my willingness to take responsibility for my judgment. So I would be willing to do that despite the fact that I might be wrong. But having said that, in any reasonable situation, I would err on the side of addressing the person in the manner that they requested to be addressed. But that's not the issue for me. The issue is now I'm compelled by law to do so. It's like, no, not doing it, not now, because it's compelled by law.
You're doing Martin Luther, and I think that these issues are a little subtler than those. And so,
well, what makes you think that you're doing the kids that are grandstanding any favors by going along with their manipulation?
Because I can't decide which ones those are. Well, I just have my gut instincts, and that's not good enough.
Look, fair enough, but you have a type 1 and type 2 error problem. So one error is that you don't call students what they deserve to be called. That's one error. And the other error is that you call students what they want to be called even though they don't deserve it. And so what you're trying to do optimally is to minimize both those errors. And to do that, you have to take a middle route. Now, what you've decided to do, and I'm not criticizing it, is you've decided to allow for the possibility 100% of one of those errors because you think it's a less significant error. And, you might be right, but it's not like you're acting in an error-free manner. You've just decided to minimize one form of error at the expense of the other. Because I would say you're allowing, what would you call it, attention-seeking and somewhat narcissistic undergraduates to gain the upper hand over you in your class.
A calm lecture on courtesy slowly turns into the usual woke math where feelings outweigh logic and politeness somehow replaces clear meaning. Then reality steps in and suddenly, power, law, and consequences are on the table. One side leans on vibes, the other leans on principles. Guess which one holds up when the spotlight stays on? Alright folks, let's wrap it. They lecture, shout, cancel, and then somehow cancel themselves in the same breath. You simply cannot write comedy this good. If that level of unintentional comedy made your day, hit like, share, and subscribe for more chaos caught on camera.